Right, we're live.
Welcome everyone to the inaugural Finance Performance Meeting for the new triennium for our November 2022 meeting. Welcome to everyone watching via live stream, and to start I'll just ask you all to stand and I'll read the council prayer. Almighty God, as members of the Rangitikei District Council, we give thanks for all the good things of our district and the advantages we enjoy. We pray that you will give us wisdom and guidance as we conduct the affairs of this meeting. We pray for all the communities and the district we represent. Help us to be fair and honest in our discussions, and help us to work together in unity for the welfare of all your people. Amen.
Amen.
So I'd just like to call for apologies.
Councillor Hera and Councillor Calkin.
So apologies from Councillor Hera and Councillor Kalkin. Can I ask for someone to move they be accepted? Councillor Wilson, your worship. All those in favour? Against? Carried. I've not been notified of any public forum. So, item 4 is conflict of interest declarations. Does anyone here have any conflicts they'd like to declare now? If not, the normal procedure is, if we're discussing matters and conflict arises, please raise it at that time. Item 5, confirmation of order of business. I'll take it as listed in the order paper with no changes, although note that the draft annual report has been tabled separately. Item 6 is the follow-up actions from previous meetings. It's good to report they're all currently closed. Are there any questions to those actions?
Just the only one that I would have through you, Madam Chair, is item 2. That clarification, quite happy with it as stated, but also just note that for unbudgeted expenditures and so on, councillors do have the right to be able to go to the chief executive or the budget holder and say, no, addressing this. I'm more than happy to see it closed. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask that the follow-up actions be received? Councillor Maughan, Councillor Duncan. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item number 7 is my chair's report. I'm happy to take it as read and as tabled. Firstly, like to welcome Jeff Wong. I look forward to working with you and learning from you, and yeah, sure we'll be a great team.
Thank you, Councillor.
Also like to thank the staff for all their hard work. I know there seems to be constant pressure in your department, so yeah, appreciate all your efforts. Thank you. Just further to my report, I'd just like to thank Council for facilitating the workshop last week with the very experienced ex-CFO Philip Jones. Some of us, those that attended, it was Finances 101, and I think it was hugely beneficial, and I look forward to the possibility of a follow-up at some stage. Thank you for organising that. So just going to have a wee attempt at this whakatauki. Māti rongo ka mauhoi, Māti mauhoi ka marama, Māti marama ka mautou, Māti mātou ka ora. From listening comes knowledge, from knowledge comes understanding, from understanding comes wisdom, from wisdom comes well-being. Let's hope that that advice can prevail. Are there any questions to my report?
No, but I would congratulate you. Thank you very much. Welcome to you in the chairman's role.
Thank you. I'm happy to move my report. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wilson. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. So item 8 is reports for information. The financial snapshot October 2022. Here. Can I ask Hilary to take us through this report?
I'm actually going to delegate that to Dave.
Oh,
That's
Thank you.
all right.
thank you, Mr. James.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your support.
Page 8 of the agenda paper, I think, is the most technical aspect of the paper this month, which talks about depreciation, section 2.3 to section 2.8. And I think it would be worthwhile me just expanding on some of the key points of this. As some of you will be familiar with, every 3 years, assets are revalued, and typically they get revalued upwards. June just gone, so the beginning of this financial year was when our roading network and infrastructure assets were revalued. The draft roading valuations show a significant increase compared to book value. And what happens is the book value determines the level of depreciation that's charged during a financial year. It's a percentage of the book value is what is depreciated effectively. For this financial year, the LTP budget for depreciation was reduced based on under budget performance in the previous year. No decisions were based on that. So because the revaluations are much higher than predicted, this year we will be showing an over budget in connection with roading depreciation. So I'm not suggesting we change the budgets to reflect that. The budgets are as per the annual plan, but we will be reporting from here on an over budget with regards to depreciation. Now, section 2.7 is critical to understanding this, I think. This has no impact on our rate setting, asset replacement plans, or cash levels. It's a pure depreciation's driven by the book values, and it's going to be more than budget. For next financial year, the long-term plan budget for roading depreciation showed an increase from 8 million to 9 million. We're now thinking, based on the draft valuations, that might be $1 million short of what it's actually going to be. So once we finalise the revaluation report and we're looking at next year's annual plan adjustments, there may be an increase in next financial year's depreciation budget. The figure could be as high as $1 million, which, as some of you will be familiar with, will be funded 63% by Waka Kotahi and 37% by rates. So we're still working through these numbers, but just an early advice that next year's annual plan may be showing a large increase in depreciation budget, and some of that would be ordinarily be rates funded. So we're going through a process at the moment. Most councils are in this boat, but just going through an interesting exercise. Well, I think elected members will find interesting comparing our road depreciation stats based on number of ratepayers and rate money, because as we all know, we have a large roading network and a relatively small rate base in connection to that. So the impact of these roading revaluations, we're going to demonstrate, have a bigger impact on our ratepayers in other areas. So I'll just pause there to take any questions, because that is quite potentially complicated.
Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So noting 2.7 in page 8 of the report, it says it has no impact on the rate setting and assets replacement plans, etc. At 2.6, should it be beneficial to council in your modelling? Are the revaluations challengeable?
Yes, yeah, we're getting that they are being reviewed at the moment, yeah, by external parties, yeah, and MDC.
So we can challenge those effectively as to what those values are, and if that had some benefits to us in the future.
Yeah, well, I'm keen to avoid challenging them just to keep depreciation down. But if the assumptions used by the external valuers who are specialists in this area, we think unchallengeable, then for sure, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. The valuation on our roading network is significant, but we've also faced revaluation on all sorts of other things in terms of property, in terms of Three Waters assets. So it's not all done at once. When's the next cycle for Three Waters and buildings do?
So the Three Waters is done at the same time as our roading network. So that as at last June, it's not referred to in this paper because the impact of that on depreciation is pretty much in line with LTP.
So you're just looking at this as part of exceptions.
The roading one was the one that stands out. Everything else is pretty much in line with LTP.
And our property holdings and buildings?
That was done, from memory, either the year before this or the 2 years before this one. Yeah.
Thanks. Just interested in where it fits in the cycle.
Councillor Moore, question?
Yes, the depreciation money that you fund, that goes into a separate account allocated to the roading network, is that right?
Yeah.
That can be spent at any time, or is it? I'm thinking you've got this big bank money, or whatever it is, millions of dollars. When can that be used? Like, yeah, sitting there, it's.
Yes, so we rate each year for the replacement and repairs of our roading network, and we budget based on that. Sometimes, for example, if there's an emergency event and we don't get to a particular year's work programme, that can be deferred to the following year.
That rating, that depreciation money.
It sticks with the roading activity, yeah.
Through you, it doesn't go into a GMJR account. It goes into the aggregated fund.
It's all managed via our accounting system where we have surpluses carried forward for each group of activities.
Any other questions? Do I have a mover for a receipt of that report then? Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Seconder. Councillor Maughan. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Looking through to page 21. Quarterly property sales. There's Karen. Who's going to talk through that?
I've been talking through the papers today.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Okay, so for newly elected members, committee members, this is a report that we bring to the committee every quarter, really, or mainly based for information. We don't particularly delve deep into these statistics. It's there for committee members for potential interest. And different members get different levels of interest in different parts of this paper.
Any questions to that paper? Your Worship?
Yeah, this is property sales,
Yes.
and just for the interest of councillors, what tends to happen the urban sector, as I understand it, and I stand to be corrected, because you're dealing with large numbers of properties that are sold, you get a pretty true, accurate position of where sales are at. But in the rural sector, you can have one property transaction that it becomes incredibly significant. So if you have a single property that sells for $60 million, say, they're absolutely relevant to that property rather than the market as a whole to some extent. Just,
So we're relying on the wisdom of the valuers.
yeah.
So if there's no questions, do I have a mover for receipt of that report, please? Councillor Duncan, seconder. Councillor Wong. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Moving to item 8.3 on page 25, the Treasury and Debt Position October 2022.
Thank you. And if I may just introduce the paper and preface it with, a similar paper was presented to a Risk and Assurance Committee, or is it still called Audit and Risk? I'm not sure at this stage. But last week's Risk and Assurance Committee had a look at the similar paper, and the suggestion, in my opinion, a very good suggestion, was that in future we'll expand this report to include where we think we'll be in 12 months' time and where we'll be in three months' time, as well as where we currently are with these ratios. So have a stronger focus on forward-looking as opposed to where we currently are. But based on the current format, where we currently are, debt levels are quite comfortably within where what we can manage. So happy to take questions.
Any questions? Bishop.
Just for the record almost, I have raised the issue that I'm far more concerned about, not where we are at this snapshot in time, but where we will be post the Three Waters decisions by government and implementation and our major capital projects. So the forecast position is far more important to me than current snapshot. I have raised this.
So when do we think we might have a feel of that, and when would we?
I'll from the next committee meeting, I'll introduce a new paper.
Okay,
Thank you. Such considerations. Yeah.
thank you very much. Show me there's no more questions. Can I please have a mover to receive that report? Councillor Carter, seconded by Worship. All in favour? Against? Carried.
Oh, sorry, there's,
Oh,
I should have done
no
this
problem.
before. When you note that we're outside our limits, is it this paper or later? No, it's this paper. When you note that we're outside the amount of money that we have in holding as cash, and I totally understand why, because of the rate that we're getting on it. For the record, I'll just ask the Chief Executive's advice, should we be noting that we're aware of that, or does the report suffice?
Section 2.2 of the paper refers to us having more money in the current accounts than the Treasury policy allows, suggests we should do. And the reasons of that commercially makes more sense.
And would it, in terms of audit, would it be advisable for us to note that council is aware of it and the reasons for it, or is it unnecessary?
I think having it as a recommendation that council notes section 2.2 and wording belts races. So I think by council receiving the report, it will be implied that you understand that section 2.2, but I think as perhaps an improvement opportunity in the future, we could note that as a separate recommendation that council specifically notes it.
We've just received the report. You could do it now if you wished it to be done.
As you wish it.
Yeah, look, I'm happy to move that council that council notes the situation with regard to 2.2 and the reasons for it.
Okay, we might just, I just want to make sure that it is correct, if I may, Madam Chair.
All I'm trying to do here is think ahead of order.
Are you able to provide a recommendation to Kezia, please?
Okay.
Sorry.
Separate recommendation. You want a separate recommendation or an extension of the same one? Okay. Council notes.
I know it's a little bit pedantic, but I'm just wanting to highlight in case audit says you were outside the regulations. Your self-imposed regulations. Sorry, I'm trying to trouble you there. The debt structure.
His copy of the treasury management policy has been signed.
One year they came to me and said, we've noted that your signature has changed.
Worship, are you happy with that recommendation?
Yes, more than happy to move.
We got a seconder, please? Moved by Your Worship and seconded councillor Carter. All in favour? Against, carried.
Have that dash and some signatures.
Moving to page 27, item 8.4, the Curvy monthly report for September 2022. Mr. Tomes.
Thank you. Again, this is a report where an external organisation provides us some statistics. We present to the committee for information and general interest. Any queries that may arise, I'll probably have to take offline and get back to committee members. Generally speaking, the page that attracts most attention is page 32, the table of average values for where we currently are and trends therein. But I think we're all familiar with them. So happy to take questions.
No questions? Do I have a,
The fact of the valuation going was a big jump between May and June.
So
Is the fact of the valuation happening, is that the reason for the jump between May and June?
the valuation I was referring to earlier was based on council's infrastructure assets, not on property values.
yes, councillor Wilson.
Costs of this report being
take it offline and find out. Sure.
I would hope it's part of their service.
I thought so. Oh, good.
But we'll leave that to Mr. Jones to confirm. Any other questions? Councillor Moore.
Based on this 5% drop in values, does that affect since we rate on capital value, does that affect the rates intake? Or do
No.
we just increase the rates to make?
No, the overall rates intake is the same. Where changing property values is applicable is if your particular property rises greater than the average, then you'll be paying more than the average rate increase.
Likewise, if it goes down.
Yeah.
I just, point of clarification,
Thank you.
but the rates are set as part of the annual plan process. So they kick in 1st of July in terms of change. Is that correct? So for instance, if your property goes up mid-period,
Yeah, yeah,
it kicks in
following year.
at 1st of July as part of the annual plan consideration.
But the valuations are just done on that 3-yearly cycle. So this is just where they're trending per sale. That won't affect those valuations until they're revalued in the 3-yearly cycle. Yeah.
If I may, yeah, the average values on page 32, they're based on market transactions as opposed to independent valuations per property.
So really, this is for information only. Yeah.
Can I please have a mover for receipt of that report? Councillor Duncan, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Loudon. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Item 8.5, page 33, is around the draft 21-22 annual report. Thank you, Mr. Tomes.
Thank you, Chair. Again, this is another item that was discussed at Audit and Risk last week, week before, that we've been advised that the audit won't be completed in time to have the annual report adopted at the December council meeting, which was our plan. We're yet to find out whether it will be presented to the January or February council meeting. This is to let committee members know where we are with that.
Worship.
Can I just ask the question? This is because of audit's ability to be able to do the work, isn't it?
It's based on a number of factors. I can expand on that if you'd like.
Thank you.
So the annual report has two main sections. Section 2, which looks at a lot of what we call statement of service performance, a lot of statistics. And the system we use to provide some of them numbers requires audit by a specialist auditor, not a financial auditor. And that auditor was on site a while ago. I'm not sure how many days or weeks ago it was. And it turns out that last year, a staff member produced the figures who's since left, and we had trouble recreating the figures. So that auditor, we weren't ready for that auditor, and that auditor now can't be back on site till after Christmas. And Section 3's the financials part of the annual report, and there's been a delay in finalising and completing the revaluations that I was referring to earlier. So the auditors have been unable, have had to shift and defer the audit of that work, and they're under immense pressure too, and their auditors were planned to be here for a certain amount of time. They got delayed, so they've had to go on to other audits, so we've been kind of shuffled back into January. And also, what was dropped upon us at the last minute was we had to go and get our drinking water standards independently audited. And there's very few firms that can do that. And the firm we managed to get to do that were initially going to be able to get their report done by the 15th of December. They've since advised they cannot do that till the 22nd of December. So there's a whole bunch of contributing factors that have meant that this has been slipped into next financial year, next calendar year. Sorry.
But there's no major significance in this delay.
I'll say no.
Yeah.
It doesn't impact any decision making on our part. It's a report we produce, it gets audited, it gets published, but we don't use it for any decision making purposes.
Thank you. Okay, can I have a mover for receipt of that report, please? Councillor Carter, seconded by Councillor Duncan. All in favour? Against? Carried. Our final item, I believe, is item 8.6, public feedback to council October 2022, page 34. Can you take us through this, please, Carol?
Yes, happy to. So this report does historically come to finance, and it's just covered the happy or not report. But now we have some other systems rolling through. We have decided to include those as well. So the Have Your Say, Korero Mai feedback from some of the QR codes that we have around the district are now going to be included in this report. So just for new councillors' benefit, the Happy or Not system is basically a sort of like a tablet or a console that we have at our main centres, and there's 4 buttons, and people can choose whether they're very happy right through to unhappy, and they can also add in commentary as a subsequent screen on that system, which is where you'll see some of those comments. The ones that are blacked out this time, I made the point in there that I do that, A, if it's referred to a person, or if there's bad language or something that's quite inexplicable to have in a public agenda. A couple of these are relating to a person that's already been trespassed from one of our premises, and they have returned and put some pretty nasty comments in there, so I've deleted those. The second part of the report, the Korero Mai, this is a new system that we've had. Nearly all of the QR codes have been rolled out in our public facilities. So these are pretty big QR codes that you'll see on toilets, parks, a lot of our facilities across the district, and it gives people the opportunity with their phone to provide direct feedback into our website and provide some of the feedback that you see there. Hasn't been a huge uptake at the moment. We're still promoting this and getting the final QR codes rolled out, and I expect once summer comes along and people are using the facilities a bit more, we should have an increased uptake on that. So while I can't provide specifics on each of the issues, I can answer any general questions if you've got anything.
I'm just interested, so I see one of the comments there is around a toilet at the Tukanuri Reservoir, which to me, with the growing use of that facility, seems like a really good idea. So what's the process to take a good idea from the public through?
This one was a great result because the Tukanuri Reserve public toilet was already underway. It's in the plan, and it's about to be installed.
The site's been cleared.
Oh, fantastic.
So just as you walk into the B&C dams, it's just between there and where the well drilling is currently happening, so it's underway.
So when we do the tour next week, you'll see that. So it was great we could actually ring this person and advise them that the public toilet was already planned and underway, and they were really happy with that. But to take it a step further, where we do have specific things like that, they would be sent to the appropriate group manager, just like any other info email that we get at council. So we do have a system to capture them. And then again, if there's, if there's been a trend for a request for something, Gayling might decide that it's actually worth investigating as part of the annual plan or bringing something to council. Yeah.
It's just interesting to note, Madam Chair, that we've built more toilets in the last 5 years than we have in the preceding 50 years. There's another one going in at Springvale Bridge,
Yes.
and there is requests for toilets at Tai Happy and requests for toilets at the new Ratana playground, etc. It just goes on and on.
Not sure what we'll put that down to.
It's through a can as well.
We seem to be building 2 a year.
Councillor Loudon.
Well, just a query about Te Maupiki. The unhappy group is quite large. Do we know whether they're visitors to the area or whether they're locals? Te Maupiki is quite a sort of a prominent site for visitors.
This one, given the time frame, it's mostly that person that was trespassed, returning, yes. Yeah, I mean, it's 6 responses is something else. There's, I suppose, 6. Yeah, if you look at the numbers, it's not actually that high. When you look at the graph, it looks high, but that's because there's such a low number of them. But unless Galen's got anything else to add, I think it's probably that person that we are aware of, yeah.
Well, this time frame it has been that person that's trespassed primarily.
And we did discuss with the previous council whether we should remove some of these when there's anomalies like this. But I think the view was, well, let's keep it as a trend and we'll do an explanation of what we know has occurred when there's something like this come up, rather than remove them. Yeah.
And just further that, do you know that people that do make comments, whether they're from outside the district going through or just locals?
No, we don't, no. We can provide that as part of their commentary if they want, but no, historically we don't ask for that.
Through you, Chair, if I can ask a question. I think, Carol, you partially answered it in your response before. If someone's giving you feedback, it's very important that their feedback is acknowledged. And I picked up on you said if you're getting a series of same feedbacks, and it's something that Galen and her teammate might pick up. But could you just tell me what is the process of that feedback and how long does that take?
So there's a for the happy or not? No, that people don't get feedback on that on the Karuto Mai one if they go through.
When someone's taking the time to make a suggestion, be it positive or negative, because we accept that there could be both.
Yep.
What is the time frame that person that's made that would expect to get some sort of acknowledgement of that? Is it the same as the RFS system?
Yes, it is. It's similar. So a lot of people, they have said yes, they want a response, or no, they don't.
Yes.
So the ones that they do want a response, Sian and the team out the front ring them, or text them or email them, and that will usually be within about 2 working days.
Does the system have an automatically generated thing that says yes, we've received your
Yes, it does.
feedback? And what was the time? You said that you would expect someone to go back to them either by text or email or phone call, depending on what it is. What
I suppose it depends what the issue is. If it's something that can be resolved quickly, like that comment about the Tutanui toilet, that was probably within a couple of hours. If it's something more complex and it requires further staff input, it can be a couple of days.
So there could be a couple of day period between someone getting an automatic text response saying thank you for your response. There could be a couple of day period or even longer before someone actually gets a more detailed response, which may not be an answer, but it may be something that says, hey, we have got this will take us some time.
And I think one from memory that the initial response we send them gives that time frame.
So
Yeah.
it's just,
If you've got something specific, you can let us know later.
you know, I don't have anything specific, no, it's just a general comment because the delay in that can ramp something up quite quickly through a non-response. And in that period, what may seem to be a reasonable period to one party may be a ridiculously long period of neglect to another, and it can cause a bigger issue. I was just wondering if there's a standard 4 minutes you try to work to.
If it's a matter that we've well, that the staff look at and think it's something urgent that needs to be brought to our attention, they do that pretty quickly. Where it's something that, you know, you might have one person who comments on a street light out, you know, and then we start getting multiple, then we'll ring the contractor and start talking to them on that basis. So I suppose it does all depend on the level of what's coming in. But they do have clear systems out there that they work to.
So sometimes a response to say nothing is better than no response.
Or an update to say we are still working on it, and they do have that in place too.
Thank you. Any other questions? Then do we have a mover for this report, please, for receipt of this report? Thank you, Councillor Moore. Seconder? Councillor Wong? All in favour? Aye. Against, carried. So just before we finish, can I please have a minute for the CE to address us around the annual plan, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is not just a verbal update on I thought the committee might find of interest. Staff are presently working on the financial aspects that will head into your annual plan deliberations next year. How that process begins is that staff will look at what are the pressures on the organisation in terms of resourcing and capital that has not been contemplated in the long-term plan, and what deviations we might put to you for your consideration during the annual plan process. One of the things we've found this year is the inflationary pressures are quite significant. I've been grateful for Hilary's leadership in this, and she has worked very well, if I can commend you in front of the committee, Hilary, on ensuring all staff have a contribution to the direction that we wish to put in front of you for the organisation. But the inflationary pressures are considerable and far greater than we had anticipated, as you'd expect, in the long-term plan. And those inflationary pressures are across the board. I'm sure none of that will be a surprise to committee members. The challenge that we will have is how we will put that within our rates cap, or not cap, or it is a cap, as part of the LTP, which is 6.95%. And I'm now asking staff to look at what reduction or cancellation of services we may be bringing to your attention for your consideration as a way of combating the level of inflation that we're receiving or that we're seeing. That's not good news, but there's no way I can balance currently with our projections and what we're seeing coming in without there being some kind of offset somewhere. Now, there are many offset tools that you have available, but just to let you know that we are considering reductions of service as one thing for your consideration. I'm happy to take questions, Madam Chair, if you wish.
Questions from Councillor Duncan?
Thank you. Given that this is a nationwide problem, is there any advice from LGNZ on this, and are they helping councils work out where the best places are to reduce spending?
I'm not aware of any advice from LGNZ.
If I may, I mean, every council, we all do the same stuff, but we do it so differently. And for them to give some generic advice as to all councils should.
There's no recipe.
And some councils are in a budget surplus position, so they're better placed to accommodate this than we are. So it really is a case of each council having a look at itself.
An example of this came, and some councillors were there last week at the workshop that we held for forestry differential, when our road and contracting organisation was advising us that across the board it's roughly 30% increases in road maintenance contracts, which clearly is way outside of our budgeted figures. Sorry, Richard.
Worship?
Part of that inflationary pressure is on wages, but I'd like to just comment on, and stand to be corrected, of the roading one. So we've recently received advice from Waka Kotahi that basically the funding levels will remain in place as they currently sit for the next 2 years, is my understanding. Is that correct?
Yes, so the NLTP, the National Land Transport Program for Waka Kotahi extends until 2024, and then the new government policy statement from the ministry will kick in. And Waka Kotahi have announced that there will be no change to NLTP funding, that there will be no change to the FAR, the financial assistance rate, and so everything is and they will not be entertaining changes to that in the current constrained environment. They are down presently 5% on income, which is for them 600 million.
So follow supplementary to that. So on one hand, we've got roading costs going up best part of 30%, and the levels of Waka Kotahi funding are unchanged. We're seeing that play out really the way that I said it would 2 years ago. A deteriorating network.
If I may add, Suresh brought up a good point in terms of staff salaries. We are considerably under inflation in terms of the markup we applied to staff in the last year. That will put further consideration on us as a leadership team on how we maintain the present staff and their enthusiasm to stay with us. So we need to consider that and bring that to your attention as well.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Peter, for making us aware of this at an early stage, because I think as a committee and as a general public even listening in, we're all aware of the pressures that not only councils are under, but every part of society is under at the moment, right across the board. So I think it's good that we do have a heads up on it. When you make the comment of potential reduction of services as a way to combat these potential increases which are going to be outside of our control, is that purely looking at OPEX, or are we considering something in the CAPEX space as well?
Predominantly in the OPEX space. But that's not to say if we do not have a large capital expense which is debt funded, you therefore got an operational component in terms of the interest, etc.
I know you'll be doing some work, so there's no big deal.
Yeah, I mean, if I may discuss, or you, Ursula, would you like to discuss Taihape Town Hall as an opportunity?
Yeah, I'm happy for you to
discuss you as well, Madam Chair. Taihape Town Hall has, if I recall, $9.7 million budget. Elected members may, in their Better Business Case deliberations later, I think it's January, I can't recall exactly when, you'll be deliberating that, may choose simply just to earthquake strengthen and do nothing else. You may recall we have also applied to the Better Off funding for an excess of $2 million to support that. It could mean that we do not spend all of that money on Taihape Town Hall at your decision, of course, but that's an opportunity to reduce CapEx considerably, and there will have an operational flow through the interest rates, etc. I think CFO was asked a question.
Well, I was on a different topic, so if no one's got questions on what the Chief Executive just said, I'll just like to emphasise one of the points you made earlier. Yes, so the Chief Executive mentioned the pressures on wages and salaries and inflation. It's really compounded when the front pages of most of our newspapers are reporting neighbouring councils and other public sector organisations such as the university talking about 8, 9, 10% pay rises. It's really, we are competing for the same labour forces to a large extent.
Yeah, Madam Chair, just because we are live streamed, I'd just like to point out that all things will be on the table. I'd hate to go live saying Taihape Town Hall is being targeted in this manner, but we do have some opportunities that we know may well come to us where we can
take a more staggered approach.
Thank you, Your Worship, yeah. Taihape Hall's just an example.
Absolutely.
um,
Nothing is sacred in this
no.
discussion.
There's no other questions? Oh, sorry, councillor Duncan.
On another topic, may I?
Certainly.
Going forward, it was my intention, which I indicated to the Mayor before we began this triennium, that I would not be part of this committee going forward. But I have not, I don't have the means to do that formally. Can I ask staff for some recommendations on how I would do that? Do I need to do that in writing to the committee to say that I won't be on finance? As a member, I see I'm listed as a member, which is very nice.
Your Worship will advise?
Look, at council today, we're looking for membership of all of the committees.
Yeah.
And simply, to set up the committees for this year, you don't have to resign, you have to make a decision whether you want to be part of it.
Right.
So on the order paper today, finance, you just say, look, I'd rather not be part of finance, I'd like to concentrate elsewhere.
And just to clarify, we didn't exclude anyone from the membership today because it hasn't been, goes to council this afternoon, so it's chicken and egg stuff. So we just elected to put everybody on there. So you have the option to attend, to make sure we also got a forum.
Yes, great. Lovely, thank you.
Thank you, councillor Duncan. And so no more questions, so I'd like to call the meeting closed.
Thank you.
Well done.